Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the PETHS Alumni Network podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, and today we are joined by Christina Flores-Chan. How are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah. I'm awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, it's very nice to have you on here. And to give a bit of intro, you graduated in 2019. You then went on to major in journalism with a minor in marketing at Toronto Metropolitan University. And currently you are working at Team Canada, the Canadian Olympic Committee, as they prepare for the Paris Olympics this summer. From going from an intern, to a full-time position, I'm kind of curious, like what aspects of the job, really reeled you in and brought you back to want to return to full-time with the same company?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so like if I'm talking about the job specifically, my favorite part was social listening. And this is like one of my favorite, I think to me the difference between like media and marketing as well is like that when you're in marketing and you're working directly with the company, your job is to angle the story and angle their positioning like how everyone else sees them in the way that the company wants to be perceived. And like I like to think we do a pretty good job at being transparent at the Olympic Committee. Like we are doing very good things and we take a lot of pride in it. And so that's what we put out in the world. Our mission really is to transform Canada through the power of sport. And so we do that in many different ways. But I really liked the social listening aspect of it. So while I was interning, they gave me a bunch of spreadsheets and like data to sort through and analyze on so I'd come in the morning and on Twitter, I would search up like on our social listening PR platform called Cision. Okay, this is what people are saying about Team Canada today. These are the top 3 biggest stories about Team Canada that other news outlets are reporting on. What does that mean for us now that these are the top 3 stories? Like, how do we use that information to like make our next marketing move, if that makes sense? And yeah, like it would just, I think like that was my favorite part. But like my favorite part of the organization is that everyone really cares. So if you're working at Team Canada, you're passionate about sport, obviously. Like if you're working in sports, you're probably passionate about it. But I think they really, really believe in what sport can do for a nation and like for youth who come from marginalized communities, what putting them in sport programming can do and giving them those opportunities to thrive in a sport environment can do, as well as like what it means to give an athlete funding for them to be able to go to the Olympic Games, like have enough funding to train at the highest level and then go to the Olympic Games and win a gold medal for Canada and bring back for us. And so everybody's just really passionate and they love what they do. And it really shows. Like people want to be at the office and they want to be like working for what we do. Like they really believe in the cause, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you touched on the Olympics, and the elephant in the room right now is Paris 2024. You mentioned offline that's a huge thing that you're working towards right now. It's coming up in a few months. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what you've been working on lately?
Yeah. So something we're doing like on the broader level is keeping track of all of our qualifications. So as Paris approaches, Team Canada athletes are going to be like competing in qualification events to be able to qualify for the Olympic Games. And so we have some of our digital team and our comms team out, flown out to like those events, covering it for Olympic.ca, like our website, but also making sure that our athletes are being taken care of and feel at their best. So that's like a huge thing that that we're like focusing on. There's going to be team announcements pretty soon. And so every week, like every NSO, which means like National Sport Organization, so like Hockey Canada, Golf Canada, Volleyball Canada, stuff like that. Organizations like that will be working with us to announce their official Paris 2024 team. So the athletes that they will be sending to the Olympic Games. That's something that's coming up that we're very, very excited about. There's also a lot going on with Canada Olympic House, which is sort of like the home away from home for Canadian athletes and also Canadians who are visiting and just like watching the games. We're working with corporate partners to be able to integrate their brands at the Olympic Games, like at Canada Olympic House. So that's like the physical Olympic House is going to be in Paris. A lot of my office is going. We have 2 offices, one in Toronto, one in Montreal. A lot of people are going to Paris, so they're going to be there for that month.
To contrast it a little bit, what does it look like on like an off year? That's not an Olympic year. What's kind of the main focus?
What's included in transforming Canada through the power of sport is also not only striving for sport excellence, like at the highest level, so the Olympic Games and the national team, but also supporting the Canadian sports system, funding grassroots programs, or like at least helping to fund grassroots programs that encourage youth to stay in sport or give opportunities to underrepresented or marginalized communities to play sport and allow them to like thrive in the sport landscape, in the environment. So I think we do that. I want to say like that is a lot of what we do during off years. And then like obviously the business stuff. So like I said, like corporate like partnership renewals, and then like always monitoring our social listening.
You mentioned offline, something that's helped you along the way that you learned in high school was, French immersion. So how exactly has that played into, what you do now on a day-to-day basis?
My French immersion base has allowed me to best deliver French pieces, French language pieces and communications and news to our French donor base, but also just like Team Canada fans in the best quality possible. But also it helps when we interact with Team Canada athletes who are from Quebec and who speak French as their first language. It's so important. I can't even stress like how important it is that there are people at the Canadian Olympic Committee and Foundation who can interact with and be there to support our Team Canada athletes, especially like when they're on the podium or just coming off from a competition and there's media who want to speak to them and they're French first. To have somebody there who speaks the language that they're most comfortable in and be able to like be there to help represent them and support them when they need it the most. That being said, I've not gotten to the stage where I'm going to competitions and having like athletes come off and for me to be like that first-hand comms person, but I'm hoping, like I know a lot of our team does that, and I'm hoping that one day I'll be there or be able to like on the foundation side be able to deliver, like be in that call or that meeting when a Team Canada athlete finds out that they're getting funding to be able to like afford training for the next year, because that is so special and it means so much to them and to us to be able to deliver that information and being able to give it to them and say that news in their language is really important.
So I like how you touched on, you're like continuing your, French learning and education through these courses, to keep your French fresh. And along those same lines, I was wondering what's like the biggest thing you learned during undergrad, and then what's the biggest thing you've learned like on the job, and how does, your learning points change between the two? I
think in undergrad, the biggest thing that I've learned is in my professional career, and I'll speak to my professional career for both of these things. But I guess this is useful advice in life too, is like, if you're on a roll, don't stop. And I think like the other thing is always like stay hungry, like stay curious, to always be like looking to learn more. Don't ever settle for like what you think is like enough knowledge that you've consumed, or if you like decide to like get comfortable in something, that's a sign that like you're comfortable enough that you can like then get out of your comfort zone and take on more and learn more. So when I was covering media, like when I was covering sports as a reporter for like the student newspaper, or even like doing features, I did freelance reporting for a while for other organizations and other publications. So the Bay Street Bull, they've rebranded. They're now called Glory, Glory Media and Glory Sports. But I had written a feature on Christine St. Clair, who is like, I think, oh my God, don't fact check me on this, but like, if not the most decorated, one of the most decorated Canadian athletes of all time, and like women athletes. And just like an unreal soccer player, also a really great person. And I was able to like write a feature on her for Glory Sports, and her new book when I was like going into my 4th year of school. And that was like so much fun. Say yes to opportunities. I was on vacation at the time, so I was in Halifax. And Glory had like, I'd been a freelancer, but Glory reached out to me and they were like, can you cover this? But it's tomorrow. And I was like, and they were like, this is her new book. Here's a copy. It's obviously under like embargo. Read it. Are you able to read it and then prepare questions and then write an article on her? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So in Halifax, I did the whole thing, like worked on my laptop. I know that sounds, it's a choice. It's a choice that you make, right? I was still able to enjoy my vacation and my trip. Thankfully, we weren't that day was sort of a light day. So I didn't miss out on like a ton. We still got to golf that afternoon. Everything was like, I didn't have to sacrifice my personal life for work. But I was able to carve out that time, and absolutely you say yes when opportunities are given to you. So that's probably in undergrad, like the biggest thing I learned. Also, like if I hadn't taken the job like in digital marketing or content with TMU Bold, I never would have learned how much I loved sport business. And I love it so much, and like how much I love that being on that side of the industry. And I think like taking that chance was probably one of the best decisions I made in school.
Wrapping it up real quick, do you have any closing, words of wisdom? I know you've shared a lot about, taking risks, shooting high, these kind of things. Do you have any, words of advice, words of wisdom for anyone watching?
Yeah, I think like this just circles it closes the loop on everything I've talked about. But I read a lot of like business, and Malcolm Gladwell is one of my favorite authors. But one of my favorite books is called Outliers. Do you know it? I feel like you know it.
No, I don't read books as much as I should.
It's just a really big business book. But in Outliers, he talks about how people, because he sort of analyzes the book analyzes people who like have been wildly successful in what they choose to do, or like have been considered anomalies or like prodigies, and how much of it is based off of like actually who they are, and how much of it is environment based. So like how they grew up, the opportunities they were afforded, and like who they were surrounded by, or also even like the year they were born in. And I think that the gist of the book, though, by the end of it is that outliers, like really wildly successful people, are people who were lucky enough to be given opportunities or to be placed in an ideal spot, but who were prepared enough to and strong enough to take it and like run with it. And I think to me that's really important. I think like you can, I think a lot of sometimes you get really lucky with where you are in a spot, or like a job opportunity comes up at the exact right moment. But if you're not prepared, like if I hadn't kind of done everything that I did in university or even in high school to prepare myself for like when the internship at the Team Canada opened up, or like when the communications and events coordinator position opened up after graduation, then I wouldn't have been able to take that chance, to take that and run with it. And so it was lucky that a job opportunity, like a permanent full-time opportunity, came up right as I was graduating. But I put myself in a spot where I was able to jump on it, if that makes sense. That being said, yeah, I was lucky to like be able to live downtown all 4 years, not have to worry about like other considerations. You're given a situation and there's only so much that you have control over. So worry about what you can control, and be ready, be as ready as you can, so that when something comes up, you're prepared and you're ready to like take it.
To wrap it up, thank you so much for your time, and it's really cool experience to hear about what you've been doing with Team Canada, especially before the Olympics come up, and we're all going to be watching that. I think it's amazing that you've been able to combine a lot of your passions together, and like you said, shoot high, and if you miss, you still get the stars, or something like that. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone so much for watching. We'll see everyone next week. Peace out.